New York Times published a list of the highest paid CEOs during the pandemic, many of whom became richer even as they were letting employees go. This led Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney to ask an interesting question. Where are the women on the list? Maloney then replied to her own tweet saying the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services passed her bill improving corporate governance through Diversity Act of 2021 to champion female corporate board members.
Author of T.O. Bernie and founder of Solidarity Strategies and former senior advisor to the Sanders campaign, Chuck Rocha, and White House reporter at Real Clear Politics, Philip Wegman. They're back to discuss. Chuck, it does say something very interesting, that you look at an entire article, which is about how CEO pay has outpaced average growth, etc., made millions of dollars, and you don't get concerned about the pay itself, and you just say, where are the women on this list? What do you make of this, and not just that, of trying to use U.S. government authority to investigate why such a phenomenon has occurred?
Well, I think it's the times that we're in. I think that we see this every day on social media, and I think that you could have took an opportunity there to tie all of that together, because the American people right now are super frustrated that we've living through a pandemic that we're coming out of and watching the rich get richer. And I could write about 25 different TV ads for Democrats to go attack these folks and say, why have none of us gotten richer while all of them have gotten richer? While me as a small businessman is paying 48% taxes if you take my DC and federal taxes combined, while those CEOs are paying probably close to 10, 12 if they're paying any taxes at all. Like, I just think that there's a missed opportunity, which I do recognize. And let me be clear that there is a difference here, and we should be lifting up women, and women should be running corporations just like people of color and everybody else. But I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
What did you make of this, Phil?
Let me get this straight. We want to make certain that when corporations exploit the tax code, when corporations offshore jobs, when corporations sort of hollow out the middle class, that the important thing here is that there's diversity in the C-suite. I think that is pretty ridiculous here, to be honest. You're not going to win a lot of votes by going to the guy with the pickup truck who, just saw that he can't get a shift at the plant anymore and be like, I'm sorry that the factory is gone, but I want you to know that, everyone from the CEO to the McKinsey consultants who made this move possible, there is gender diversity in this decision. Like, come on. But, look, we can make fun of the Congresswoman. I think the interesting thing here is, remember this, keep this in mind the next time a corporation makes some sort of, pronouncement about being on one side or the other when it comes to a social issue. They don't care.
Yeah, they
care about their bottom line.
Well, this is my question for you, Chuck, which is that this Congresswoman Maloney, she's being primaried again. She came very close to losing her seat.
She did.
Last time around. There's some weird stuff going on if I recall, around the vote by mail that was happening there. In terms of this, I know the Justice Democrats specifically are targeting this seat. What do you make of that dynamic in particular, given that we've seen other New York City polls who are very similar politics fall because of issues like this?
I think we talk about it on this program a lot with the partisanship and where the party is, especially in a Democratic, or I would remind you, a Republican primary has put us in the position that we are today. You have lots of Congress people, men, women, black, brown, gay, and straight, who have been involved in the process for a long time. And you have folks like the Justice Democrats, the Sunrise Movement, and other folks who were demanding that the next generation of progressives, of Democrats, of liberals, of however you want to categorize yourself, need an opportunity to reflect the larger group of Americans who think that there should be more fairness in our government, and our government should stand for us. The one thing I would remind everybody about when you see a lot of congressmen talking, or congresswomen talking about diversity in the C-suite or other things, you should know that all of these congressmen, all of these congresswomen have an opportunity to hire consultants themselves. And you should take a look at their FEC files and see if any of them have women-owned firms, black-owned firms, or brown-owned firms, because I've done that research and less than 1% of them use any of them.
Yeah. And Phil, I guess the thing that's this is funny, but it's also why it's important, is because this isn't just one random member of Congress who, by the way, happens to represent the Upper East Side. So I'm sure this actually is very in tune with her constituents'
She's a very
views.
representative.
Very representative of the Upper East Side's politics here. But you see this instinct in the Biden administration, too, where you saw a couple times Jen Psaki would get asked a question about, what are you going to do to help my small business? And she was like, first of all, I want you to know we have a woman in charge of the Small Business Administration. Which, again, if you're that small business owner, you're like, okay, fine, but that's not really super relevant to what I'm asking you here. And you've seen that same instinct a couple of times where it's so much just more about the identity of the person, which is great. I'll celebrate diversity. We want people of all stripes to be able to succeed in this country. But while ignoring the sort of policy content of what these people are all about.
Certainly, and this is what, the larger conversation ought to be about. Is diversity in and of itself a good thing? Yes, because we want to bring more people to the table, and that actually leads to richer products, better ideas, so on and so forth, when there's an actual meritocracy. When you fall back, though, on identity politics for the sake of identity politics, whether it's in the corporate or political world, you get those answers that you were just referring to, Crystal, where you ask the spokesperson for the leader of the free world a question about the economy at a moment when we're, in recession, and she says, "Well, your very detailed question. We have, a female Fed chair,
right.
or we have, this number of people on staff who are either minority or are, female," and
right.
That answer almost belittles the actual accomplishment, because the question should not be, how an individual identifies alone. The question should be, what are they actually doing? What are they actually accomplishing? Because these people are accomplished and certainly capable. But if you just say, well, I'm going to reduce this just to, these characteristics that are out of their control, I think that's a cheap answer. And that doesn't, actually solve any problem, just like the Congresswoman's tweet.
Yeah, that's really such a good point, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Great to see you both, guys.
All right, coming up, journalist Zed Jelani discusses why the Washington Post did a fact check on Senator Tim Scott. It's going to be Rising continues.